Hello everyone! We're back again for another topic. Are you ready for another learning session? Now let's get started!
Good day, learners! Welcome to English class. I am Miss Eunice, your English teacher.
This week, we will discuss comparing and contrasting opinions.
Here are the objectives. At the end of our lesson, you are expected to first, identify statements that show comparison and contrast. Second, compare and contrast the similarities and differences of Asian cultures. Third, express opinions by showing comparison and contrast supported by evidence from given text. And fourth, appreciate Asian cultures and values through writing. Before we begin, let us have a quick review. Look at the brochure and infographic.
What country is described in both multimodal text? What differences are shown in the multimodal text in promoting Malaysia? How is the idea presented in both multimodal text?
Very good, learners! You've answered it correctly.
Now let us have another one. Fill in the concept map with your descriptions of the similarities and differences of each multimodal text presented. This time, let us read a story and take note of the Thai's culture, beliefs, and practices in the story summary presented in the flowchart.
Let's answer the following question. First, what is the story all about? Second, how did Seasword become instrumental in praying for rain? Third, do we have the same practice of worshiping here in the Philippines? Fourth, how do we Filipinos and Thais regard cats? And fifth, in what ways are Filipinos similar to or different from the Thais in terms of praying or worshiping? That's great, learners! Before we discuss what is comparing and contrasting opinions, let us first define what is an opinion. An opinion refers to a view or judgment formed in the mind about a particular topic or issue. Using opinion marking signals as discussed in the previous lesson, you can make your own opinion about a specific topic, issue, or subject matter where one's possession or stand is presented. What is comparing and contrasting opinions? Comparing is the process of looking at the similarities of two things or ideas with the use of appropriate transition signals. Contrasting is the process of looking at the difference between two things or ideas with the use of appropriate transition signals. Why do we need to compare and contrast things and ideas? We need to compare and contrast to identify the similarities and differences between ideas. Comparing and contrasting will help us better comprehend the issue raised or points made in any reading passage. These skills are most especially useful when making a stand or giving opinions. By identifying the similarities and differences between ideas, we, as readers, are able to form our own informed and evidence-based opinions. There are many ways to note and present similarities and differences of any expository text using nonlinear text such as graphic organizers. The most commonly used graphic organizer is the Venn diagram. From there, you can write paragraphs to communicate similarities and differences, and then your opinion. The story of My Thai Cat presents information based on the history of particular place where you can make your opinion based on your observation or reading. In short, it is evidence that reflect the Thai culture. Notice the similarities and differences between the beliefs and traditions of Thailand and Philippines. A. In the Thai culture, to refuse the will or command of the father is a grave sin. In like manner, Filipinos believe that disobeying and disrespecting parents are great sins. B. Thais pray when they ask for something. The same is true for Filipinos. C. Thais offer cats as instruments to ask for rain. However, Filipinos do not. And D. Thai Buddhists worship Buddha while most Filipino Christians worship Jesus Christ.
Let's analyze. What do you think of the example? Which of the statements express comparison? How about contrast? Now consider this. Statements A and B show comparison. Statement A compares two similar ideas: Thais and Filipinos' culture of respect for elders. Statement B compares two similar ideas: Thais pray, Filipinos also pray.
We must remember that when comparing, aside from using in like manner and the same with, we can also use other signal words or phrases such as also, in the same manner, likewise, and similarly.
How about in statements C and D? Statements C and D show contrast. Statement C shows two contrasting ideas. Thais offer cats to ask for something, while Filipinos do not. Statement D also shows two contrasting ideas. Thai Buddhists worship Buddha, while most Filipino Christians worship Jesus Christ.
We must remember that when contrasting, aside from using however and while, we can also use other signal words or phrases such as even though, but, in contrast, nevertheless, otherwise, yet, though, instead, and on the other hand. For you to effectively compare and contrast your own opinion based on a given familiar text, you have to do the following.
First, identify the similarities and differences between objects, persons, or ideas. Second, take note of the similarities and differences as well as the transition signals for comparing and contrasting. And third, express your own opinion by showing comparison and contrast as supported by facts and evidence through the text presented. Let's try this activity. Read closely and find out the similarities and differences. For our next activity, compare and contrast the statements by writing 3 sentences expressing comparison and another 3 sentences expressing contrast. Use appropriate transition signals found in the box. This time, I want you to share what you have learned in our discussion. Now for our final assessment, read the following questions carefully and choose the correct letter of your choice. 1. Why do we need to compare and contrast our culture to other countries? A. To love our culture. B. To know their culture. C. To simply compare and contrast. D. To appreciate the diversity of cultures. 2. In stating an opinion showing comparison or contrast, what should be done first? A. Analyze only one picture being shown. B. Make sure that there is evidence as basis. C. Draw a diagram showing similarities and differences. And D. Analyze a diagram showing similarities and differences. Number 3. When comparing, what part of the Venn diagram is filled in when writing down the similarities between two things or ideas? A. Universal set. B. Subset of the circle. C. All parts of the circle. D. Intersection or middle part. Number 4. Listed below are aspects of the culture which are compared among Asian countries like Thailand and the Philippines, except for A. Traditions and beliefs. B. Religion and practices. C. Science and technology. D. Pop culture and entertainment. Number 5. What is the process of establishing similarities between things or people? A. Comparing. B. Contrasting. C. Defining. D. Persuading.
Congratulations, learners! You did an amazing participation. Thank you for joining today's class. I hope that you learned a lot from our discussion. Always remember, in English, you're the best.